Welcome everyone, we are back in Fantasy HQ for the 2021 season. This is Red, this is Mitch, I am Alex, and we are the NRL Fantasy Gurus.
The original and the only.
Now, if you guys haven't seen us before, we are the three friends that never agree. And like
I'm
we've
not
said
going to
before,
agree to that. We agree sometimes.
Nice. And we are here for the NRL 2021 fantasy season. If you haven't seen us before, we got all our old videos up on YouTube. Like I said, last year, a lot of rule changes.
This year, a lot of rule changes.
We got a few more, and we'll just quickly brush on them. So, obviously, there's points for turnovers now. So, intercepts.
Knock-ons, like forced. Anything really, you take the ball from the other team, you get 4 points.
Yeah. And so that you'll get 4 points. And, of course, we have the positional changes as well. So
Tell me more.
Well, we used to have the front row forwards and second row forwards. Now we have edge position and middle position. So the middle position really just lumping together front row forwards and locks, which I think is a great change.
The same position on the field anyway, realistically.
Same position. Now, we will be creating an NRL Fantasy Guru League. So when that pops up on the app, when it's finally working, jump on that.
Start of February, apparently, so it might only be a few days away.
Now, we're hoping to get off to a better start than last year. We'll blame COVID. We'll blame the new rule changes. Yeah, but we are ready, and we are ready to come out firing. Okay, so in this video, we'll be covering 3 key positions. The new positions of edge forward, new positions of middle forward, and, of course, the oppositions of hooker. Who's the best middle, higher range, lower range? We'll cover a few names that stuck out to us. Sorry, I'm getting back in the groove of things. When the prices came out. So we'll start on hooker. You know, a bit of a regular occurrence. And Mitch, who are you liking? Just throw a name at us here.
Look, if we're going low on the lower end of things, I think Jacob Little for the West Tigers is an absolute must-have. Obviously, they had Harry Grant there last year, and we all know how well he did there. We don't really have to speak about him too much. So Red probably will waffle on a little bit about him. But at the moment, at 304,000, he should be a starting hooker. I don't know if they've got a lot of depth there. They've got Billy Walters. So he might split the minutes, but he's going to make money.
I think if he's playing over 50, 60 minutes, if he's starting, you got to have him. He's like Luai last year. You got him 100% in your team.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. 100%. Just have him.
Have him. Red, who you liking? Hooker position.
Hooker. Now, there's a man out there, and he didn't play much last year. He played a little bit. Josh Hodgson. Now, we spoke about new rules and how taking the ball from an opponent is an important thing. That man in 2019 did it 9 times. That's a lot. That's a lot. That's 36 points for the whole year that he got extra, had the points been in place. Now, he's at 502,000. He's probably the starting hooker. However, there is a threat. We all know Mr. Starling did some fantastic work for the Raiders. So he's much cheaper than him, so most likely the starter, but could lose a little bit with him coming in. So
here's where not agreeing comes into play here. I don't like it with Starling on the bench. I think he did a great job. I think he should be starting over Hodgson, but I think being co-captain, I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I think Hodgson's he's a bit of the heart and soul of that team. So
at 502k could be tempting to some.
Well, okay, so he got injured, so his average was 38, but when he was playing the normal minutes, didn't have Starling there, he was averaging 41. So at his price at 39, you stand to gain a little bit of money. But just from a bench perspective, I think as a hooker, he should belong on the bench for your own team anyway.
Thoughts, Mitch?
Look, he's not one I'm probably going to bring in, but he's definitely one to consider. Like, you know, whenever he comes out, he could be a good option.
Could be a classic wait and see.
Could be a wait and see, for sure.
Classic Guru's banter. I'm going to go with Mitch Rain here. I think every predicted lineup we have of the Titans, all I see is rain. All I see is chocolate rain.
It's usually sunny out there.
And look, he didn't play one 80-minute game last year. When I looked it up, I was very surprised by that. But when he did start, he still averaged 51.8 points. So very good 46 tackles a game. The average.
So if he's going to make it rain.
He's going to make it rain. I think if he starts and you look at that bench, there's no Tanner Boyd, there's no Eric Clark, there's no Peets.
Yeah.
Peets and Peach. A couple of people.
You got to have him. At that price, 589k. I think there is some value around that 600k mark.
Yeah, he's there, but that's the issue, right? What is Aaron Clark doing? What's Tanner Boyd doing? What are all these people who are sitting on the bench doing?
Yeah.
Are they there? Are they not? No.
So
It's tough.
Is another classic wait and see or buyer beware.
I love Teamless Tuesday. It just
So that
gives me a hard on.
better.
Got a rager just thinking about it.
Speaking of value around the 600k range, Mitch, I know you have one.
Look, I really like Reece Robson. When he played over 60 minutes last year, an average of 64.9 points. So I think if he's a starting hooker,
That is absurd number. That is really good average for someone at that price.
yeah, he gives that offensive stats. He does the tackling, but he gets out, run meters, break tackles, play makes a little bit, and probably can bring that on a bit now that he's had a full preseason there. If he does get the starting, there's obviously Ruben Cotter, Granville there, so there's a bit of a wait and see, but I think he's potentially that good mid-tier option that could go to a gun level if he gets the start.
Yeah, I think everyone's gone to sleep on young Granville. He just fell off the face of the earth, didn't he? So I don't think he's going to be too much of a
when you
threat.
play terrible.
Yeah, facts are facts, am I right? Can't ignore them. And yeah, couldn't agree more. I think he could be an absolute standout this year.
Like Rain, if there's no bench competition, I think probably a must-have.
Must-have.
How about Red? What do you like in there?
Well, I've gone back down the price spectrum to $410,000 for Jaden Brayley. Now, I know the Brayley name's a bit of a at the moment for some people. But 410k, a lot of people bringing him in from what we're seeing at this point in time. And with no McCulloch there, who was really good at the Knights, this man stands to pretty much own it. The only potential threat is Connor Watson. Now,
You've got Randall as well, if you're stretching a bit.
If you're stretching, but all the predicted teams that have him in there, I don't see him doing any sort of threat to Jaden Brayley. They brought him in for the intent to be an 80-minute hooker. I think Connor Watson's going to be that explosive player if they need it, if they're trailing in a game, heading towards half-time. And he averaged 41 points a game. You know, at 410k, that's golden.
That is really good.
It's not bad, yeah.
So you take that where you can get it. I know a lot of hookers are going to probably find their way onto people's benches, but I think he's almost a must-have. Almost.
Look, we're good blokes. We covered some mid-range, covered some lower end. Let's hit with the guns. Mitch.
Look,
Just
he's arguably the best hooker in the game, Damien Cook. 64 average last year. He's going to be a gun. He should be hitting around those marks again. Rabbitohs have obviously added Jai Arrow, which makes their forward pack better.
Well, hang on. I want to make a point here. Jai Arrow brings to light one thing that they missed all last year, that extra quick play of the ball, when they lost from Sam Burgess. Now, that's when Cookie was at his finest. He had two people giving quick plays of the ball. I think he's going to have a much bigger year than he did last year. So I'm excited for that.
Well, he did drop off a bit last year. So.
He did drop. He didn't have those gun runs that he had, that up the middle speed. He just didn't have it because there was no quick play of the ball. What's a man supposed to do?
We're saying he dropped off. His average was still 64 points.
Exactly,
So,
but I think he's going to get back up to the 70s. Like
the rule changes, we thought he'd be the one to really capitalise, but he didn't do it as much as we thought.
Yeah, Bennett has some crazy things in mind. But we're going to go to the man, the legend from last year, Rookie of the Year. Could have won the Dally M. Welcome back to the Melbourne Storm, Mr. Harry Grant at 823k. What did he start at last year? 240?
Bottom
something
dollar.
like that. Absolute bargain basement. Mate, he averaged 74 minutes a game. That is huge. And from that, 61 points.
It's impressive.
Mama. That guy was in everything. Now, with Cameron Smith gone, I don't see the Chiefs doing too much. Hey, he's gone.
Is he? No one knows.
Is it confirmed?
You heard it here first. we've got an inside scoop. Like, I know the guy's out doing book signings. Like, I don't know if that's retirement or not, but it just screams retirement. Anywho, yeah, I don't see Hectic Cheese doing too much in the hooker position. If it is, it's definitely not from the starting point. You don't, potentially drop Cameron Smith for half. Harry Grant was the man, and he showed that. We all knew he was going to be the incumbent.
I knew he played the absolute house down for Queensland, so...
At that price, I still think he's cheap. But he has to play that 80 minutes, he has to show me. So maybe leave that for a few weeks. I personally would. Especially when you got so many other great hookers like... And this is also leading into middle forwards, Cam Kinnis. Now, 972k, he does not come nearly $1 million, just like Haas last year. I don't need to bang on about him. Like, we know what he can do. I just think with that DPP depth, he's a must-have in your team. He's the Payne Haas team. I haven't even put Payne Haas in one of my teams this year.
How many teams do you have?
I have one.
Is this how you go well?
Yeah.
You have like 17 different
I have
teams?
one team, but I play with it on the hourly. But
whatever.
McInnes is always a constant in that team. And look, I think if I'm playing him in front row forwards, I'm going to use a mid hooker in the starting spot for hooker. So that's my plan going forward. What do you think of McInnes?
Look, McInnes, he's in my team. To be honest, he's a set and forget captain. You've got the versatility to move in.
It's pretty much been confirmed that Hunt's gone back to half. So that means hooker for him. They don't carry a benchy hooker.
There's a slight rumour that potentially McCulloch's coming and he's going to play lock, but till that happens, at the moment, I think he's just almost set and forget.
Perfect point on the set and forget captain. You need at least one of those going into the season.
Got to have him.
And I did say segue because I'm the segue king. We all saw that last year. Middle forward. But I'm going to segue into a person you guys will not agree with. But in 3% of teams, Matt Lodge. Red, I know you. God, finally we got rid of him.
Are you for real?
Matt Lodge.
Matt Lodge.
Shouldn't forget.
Matt Lodge, if you can make an appearance, that would be fantastic.
Home invasion. Your life. Congratulations.
Home invasion number 2. Probably should have said that. Look, I'm not going to talk about 2020 because he had a really bad game. But that is probably why I should be talking here. That is exactly why I should be talking about him, because he started 3 games last year. His price plummeted from 700,000 down to 390k. That's why I think he's great. In 2019, when he held that starting spot at prop, he averaged over 50. So, I just think if you can get him at 390k and he come TLT, Single Tuesday, he's starting 390k, bargain. And you need to fill 3 middle spots, let's remember.
So, look, I'm not a yes, I'm not a no. He's a wait and see for me, like what their bench looks like if they carry, a dummy half for utility.
It's not as good as it was last year.
It's not. They've lost a bit of depth there. But, yeah, I don't know. He's a wait and see for me.
I don't even ask. Who are you liking, Reddington?
A guy with a bit of class. The guy who went to England, had some tea, met the Queen, a couple of crumpets,
Scones?
No, he had crumpets with the Queen.
Look,
Neanderthal.
We said we'd spend a minute on each player.
Yeah, look.
We're talking about crumpets now.
This is where we're at. Ben Murdoch-Masila had a bit of a stint early on in his career in the NRL. Cheesed it out of there to England. Is like, you know what? Not good enough. Went to England. Absolute steal. This guy comes in at 408k. He was part of the Tongan team that not destroyed, but still beat the Kangaroos. Absolutely shocked the world with their forward pack. He was one of the leaders from that team. The Warriors have bought him. He'll be starting. Every predicted team has him in there. At the moment, he's 18% of teams. Now, he's priced at only getting 30 points per game. If he exceeds that, you're making money from the get-go. From the get-go. 405k for a starting prop? Come on now.
If he starts.
If he starts.
I like the price, but for as many as success stories we get from England, Bateman, we get just as many, fails.
Tompkins.
Yeah.
So that's a Warriors one
It's a
too.
50-50 there for me. What do you think of it?
Look, he's not one like Lodge. Like, if they...
He is nothing like him.
Look, if they're both starting and there's kind of I like taking forwards from teams that carry a utility hooker, dummy half on the bench, because, that's one less person in rotation, minutes should be increased. So, all the information comes out and you've got it all. If everything looks good, it's definitely something to consider.
Hear me out. DPP. Put him on your bench.
DPP.
You get injuries.
It's a very, very good
either
point.
side. Hello.
We love DPPs. And in saying that, middles to edges, not as many DPPs as you think.
No.
Very slim. Especially in the top range. You maybe got 3 guns at a DPP. So
he'll be there. You watch him.
I think he'll be a gun. Yeah. Okay. Red, over to you, Mitch.
Oh, thank you.
Who are you liking?
I think an interesting one, and we kind of brushed on it, the depth at Brisbane. Part of the reason they've got a bit more or less depth there now is because this is one of the guys that has moved on. Joe Offenengawe at the Tigers. I think he's gone there with something to prove, and coming in at 417,000, cheap. Should be a starter, and if he plays at 50 to 60 minutes, he will be making you money.
He's a Josh Alloy replacement. He's buggered off to Manly. James Tarmo has come in, so potentially could get some minutes, but I still think he is a starter. He deserved more at the Broncos. Knew where he was going to go get more. Went to the Tigers, and they're a building club. I really like their half, Luke Brooks. I think he's a good player, and I think he's going to make it so that this guy excels more than he did at the Broncos because their halves couldn't do shit.
Well, if anything, he's shown diversity. He can play second row, he can play lock, he can go all over the forwards. So that's a good pick. I like that. Another one, Red?
Another one for me. Ooh. Welcome back.
Ginger on Ginge, maybe?
Yeah, hey.
Ginger on Ginger.
Ooh, yeah. Welcome to National Ginger Day here at the NRL Fantasy Goo HQ. Corey Horsburgh.
Ginger?
The horse, of course. You shut up. People remember me as a ginger. Corey Horsburgh. Now, this man, he's got some mongrel. 566k. You know how many people are bringing him in?
to me, always.
He does. He's got a bit of fire in him. You know what I'm talking about, fan of pants. Averaging 48 points. And only 50... Fan of pants.
It's a new one. I thought I've heard all the ginger.
Okay.
Is that what people called you as a kid?
Look, if you want to see. No.
No.
So, Corey Horsburgh, 48 points from 50 minutes. This guy was doing almost a point per minute at the Raiders.
Yeah.
You know, and even with Josh Papali there, he was still getting great minutes. So that's a guy they've clearly got a lot of trust in. He did a lot. Now, they're likely to be carrying that hooker on the bench. We spoke about the different hookers that they're going to have at Canberra. So that's one less spot to be taken up. So that means more minutes for this man. He could potentially with more at the end of the year.
Well,
So
before he cried and got injured, he was rocketing up the price board.
He was
a great player. No offense to you. You're actually a fantastic player and he's got a lot of mongrel. He gets involved and I love his work ethic.
He does.
So I would love to have him in my team if he's starting for sure.
I had him last year and he was going great guns, so he got hurt. And when he cried, I cried. So.
Yeah. And look,
Right together, brother.
I feel you, man. And look, it was a hot day out there. I understand what the sunburn was doing to you, so I get it. You know, I get it. The only real threat is Ryan James has come across to the Raiders.
Yeah,
Now, I'm not
that's an
saying it's a
interesting
big one,
No, it's
but
not a big
there's
one at all.
potential
No.
to take away some minutes. You know, Ryan James, most likely I'd put in second row, but with what they've got at the Raiders, you just don't know what they're going to do.
Well,
it could be anything. Richard Stewart's a quirky character.
Maybe they like the horse, of course, off the bench because he brings a lot
Exactly,
of money, a lot of energy.
But even then, he should get plenty of minutes. So he could be bringing him
All
off the
signs
bench,
point
which
to
I
bring
never
him in.
say, by the way.
Yeah.
Tino.
The
The
Suamalawi.
Titans. Thank you
I'll
for
say
saying
it
it
for
for me. Look, he's the most popular middle forward in the game right now, as of writing, and second overall in bring-ins at the moment. So people are loving him. Now his PPM is 0.87. He gets his points per minute. Minutes are a question mark. You'll bang on him about him a bit later, but there could be someone taking his lock spot. So look, there's a lot of depth in the Titans forwards. There's big question marks.
Yeah.
But, you know, I've got to agree with the masses here that he should get the start. Pay big money. You want to have him in your starting spot.
Right.
If he does, 50 minutes, you're loving it. He's cheap.
I don't know. It all depends. There's so much unknowns right now. Like, it's all pure speculation, but in theory, he should get the start. But, you know, we'll have to wait and see for TLT.
Look, let's be honest, not a lot of players leave Melbourne and go really good. You know, they excel in that program for one reason.
Bang on, son.
Who remembers Dallas Johnson? No? Yeah, that's right. Won a premiership with Melbourne. Who the fuck is he? No idea. So,
If you're a vivid watcher, Dallas Johnson, we apologise. Thank you for subscribing.
thanks for winning the premiership, lad. Appreciate it, mate. But honestly, like that's the way it is. A lot of people
Proctor.
do leave the Melbourne. Yeah, well, Proctor. Look, there's one exception, and I will talk about him later. But there's not many exceptions to the rule. If you leave Melbourne Storm, you get better. So there is a threat there. There is a threat, and I understand why people are looking at it. But let's be honest, the Titans need some forward depth. They got it. They could be super explosive.
Yeah.
Even if he does get little minutes, he could be a super explosive player if they just keep choking the middle of the field.
Yeah. With Peach, Fafita, Tino.
There's a lot to be
They're
happening in
doing
the middle of
Mofo.
the field.
They're doing great.
It's a great forward pack. So
You know who's part of a great forward pack? Mitch.
Oh, it's me. Takiaho. I think he's an interesting one this year. Look, quick brush up here. Had a 49.6 average last year, and he averaged about 161 metres per game, which is fantastic.
Huge.
I'm not sure 100% what's going to happen with his minutes. Obviously, a person like Victor Radley is going to come back into the rotation, and we know how important he is to the Roosters.
You talk about the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper.
Tell the people.
All right, guys. I wasn't going to get there, but here we go. Now, obviously, Flanagan was the goal kicker last year.
Yeah.
We know Takiaho can kick them, and maybe that means he hasn't increased minutes because we know how important goal kicking is in modern day rugby league. How many games are decided by a handful of points?
After Sharks, how many games have they won in 2019?
Yeah, true.
Goal kicker.
Still made the 8 baby.
Suck. So does his minutes increase? Does someone else goal kick? It's that's kicks 4 or 5 extra goals a game. There's 10 points. So
Well, 674, not cheap, but if he does all those things, pretty good.
not sure. What the?
We're in a
I
different
just wanted
world right now.
I just wanted to emphasise.
Sorry, we're
Put
still.
your man voice on. Yeah, he's not cheap, lads, but you know what he can do.
So again,
I'm still having crumpets with the Queen.
Sorry, as we're in that pre-season rust out.
Well, you know who doesn't need to get their rust out? JT, Jason Tamalolo. 2020 average of 61.7. Lowest score all year, 54.
What's his price? Though?
Talk to us.
Did I just say that?
Sing it.
827.
It's not cheap though, is it?
Not cheap, though, is it?
We'll play. But look, he does the one thing we talk about every year. Capital letters here. Consistency.
Oh, wow. And you spelt it wrong.
Thanks for pointing that out.
Consistency.
No, it's anyway. Massive consistency. Now you want a guy that comes in, week out, works his arse off for a team that doesn't give anything back. This is the man. So JT, he will definitely be my team as a middle forward. I think he's still cheap at 827. And well, who are you liking?
Well, I'm not even going to argue because JT, mate, if you've ever played fantasy before,
There's a reason I passed on. I don't even know to ask him.
if you haven't played fantasy, Jason Taumalolo, really good player.
Not cheap.
Not cheap though.
Speaking of not cheap, Patrick Carrigan. It's an expensive man right there. I've written 897. I'm pretty sure it's 807. More thumbs today. Only a few people are bringing him in. I think a lot of people realise the price hike that this man took on. Now, an average of 60 points per game is still really good. And he's had 67 minutes. Now, that's when Payne Haas was playing in big minutes. And I've heard they're reducing that boy's minutes.
What?
So does that mean carry goes up? Who knows? All I'm saying, look, Offhand Galway's gone. You said, he should be a man at another team, I think the Tigers, right? So does that mean that when they're carrying a hooker on the bench to have McCulloch and Turpin together, does that mean Carrigan potentially plays 80 at the lock position? Is he the new Corey Parker? Can we get some salt and pepper and spray it on the man? Because this is the new Corey Parker. I'm actually going to call it.
Wow.
He's the new Corey Parker. I'd love to see a goal kick. Wouldn't that be the dream?
Look, I've never seen a guy with more work ethic. Like, he gets on and he does everything he can for that team. He runs, he tackles, he's a base stat machine.
Yeah.
That's what I love about him. And I think he gives another man on that team a big run for his money, points-wise.
It's Payne Haas.
Told you.
Payne Haas is a man I want to highlight because obviously it does not come.
Cheap, though.
Comes in at 967,000. Now that is a lot of money, but he did back it up last year at a 72 average. But the rumour is he's playing reduced minutes this year. But that could go two ways. Like Tamalolo doesn't play the big minutes like Haas is playing, but he's more explosive. And Haas, when he burst onto the scene, was explosive. Would break tackles, offloads. And last year he wasn't doing it. It was tackles, it was runs. Like, he was averaging 44 tackles and 174 run meters last year, which is massive.
It's huge.
But you weren't getting that offensive stats output. Does that increase when these other stats are going to get out? I don't know. For me, I'm probably not going to look at Haas. It's a lot of money for a lot of unknowns. If you're spending that money, there you're set and forget, captain.
Yeah.
It's him or McInnes or Cleary. You pick one and you stick one.
Yeah, look, what you'd have to do to your team and the absolute swill you'd have to bring in to have those three players together, I think you do have to pick someone that you just can't have. And as bad as it is to say, I think Haas is the first name cut from that list. Cleary's always going to be on there for 80 minutes.
Yeah.
So,
or you'd assume Macca should be 80 minutes.
McInnes should be 80 minutes. This man's going to lose minutes, potentially explosive, but potentially, whereas the other's guaranteed. So, if there's one you cut, and it's Haas.
Look, last year he was in like 30% of teams. Like, before the season started, people loved him. It was like one of those, do you or don't you? And we even had a video, do you or don't you? For Payne Haas. This year, I think you don't.
But he could be one, if his minutes increase, Broncos still suck. Then, his price comes down. Potentially it's not working, they revert back. You might be able to pick him up in a few weeks a bit cheaper. So
it'd be great if they drop Milford, put him in the halves, plays 80 minutes, explosive half runner. Wouldn't that be great? What a MVP that'd be. NRL fantasy. Do it.
Well, you said it before, one try last year. That's because he was playing big minutes. So more explosiveness, more tries. We don't know. Edge players. Here we go.
The pass rushers. I like these guys.
Yep.
American
NFL.
football.
Yeah.
Heroes.
All right, Red. You start then.
Oh, you want me to
Who
start?
you like on the edge?
Corey, harawira-naera. Ben at the Raiders all last year, but didn't play all the games. Corey harawira-naera, 310,000. The number one bring in. Everyone wants the man. Everyone's talking about him. But he averaged 24 points a game last year. And he had 33 minutes a game last year. He only started 2 games. One at lock, one at second row. His game at second row played 75 minutes and was like I think he scored 25. Yuck. If that's what we're looking forward to, is that a loss in price?
So
So break even at 25?
You came at us like he's a
Yes.
must. Yeah, now you're
Well,
on the
that's
basket.
because everyone's on him.
The
But
curtain is
I'm-
pulled.
look, okay, so let's revert back to the year before. 2019, he was with the Dogs. Averaged 43 points a game.
It's not bad.
So is it the consistency? Is it the preseason? What happened? Is he a must-have because he's so cheap? Probably, but is he going to do much? That's a wait and see. That is a wait and see.
as well as that, he's no guarantee. You got Hudson Young who played the absolute house.
And he was
last
fantastic.
Year. They've got Ryan James in there. Elliot Whitehead, he's going to hold one starting second row position. You got to assume Tarpanay or the horse, of course, are going to be a lock. Like, do they keep him as that bench? I don't know.
That's what I'm saying.
All I'll
They
say
are
is
thick and
310. He's starting. He's playing over 40 minutes. I'm leaving him on my bench at
Look,
least. I think at least-
TLT, wait for TLT. If he's in the starting squad, 100% have him in your team. If he's not, there's a lot of questions to be had. I think, and look, it's not a lot of money, but yeah.
Mitch, I know you're big on a cheapie.
Ugh.
We just talked about 310. You got something cheaper.
Slightly cheap, yeah. Bloor from the Tigers. Most games he played last year, in fact, actually all games he played last year was off the bench. But he really stood out to me when the Tigers versus the Eagles last year. He made it a personal vendetta against Nathan Brown and took him on, didn't take a backward step.
I like that.
Now, if you look at the predicted lineups, take him with a grain of salt. But he's predicted to be starting second rower, and at 246,000, there's so much upside there if he's starting. He will be in my team, guaranteed. And from what I've seen of the games he played in that one game where he really made it personal against Parramatta, like he's not going to take a backward step. He runs hard, he tackles hard. I mean, he's a great option if he starts.
Look, one of my biggest ever fantasy missteps was on video. You can go back and look at it if you want. Saying Luke Garner was the best POD option of last year's fantasy football. I'm ashamed. I disgraced my family. I dishonoured them. Samurai sword.
What about the Gurus? Who cares about your family?
Look, I disgraced the badge. And look, I still think Garner will get that starting spot. But if not, this Bloor guy gets it. And again, just like CHN, you got to have him in your team.
TLT, man. TLT. Look, like I said, I had a rager for it already. I can't imagine what's going to happen on TLT.
So you mentioned 2 cheap guys. I'm going to go with cheap guys. Well, 344k. We got Ricky from the Z Broncos. Now, we already talked about, they're not as stacked as last year. They got some spots open. People think he can maybe fill a spot. And he is a popular bring-in right now. Now, he got the start round 20 last year. So was that a sign of things to come? Got a new coach. Could have different plans. Yeah. But he got 50 points in that last game. So he played the whole game. He's got stamina, obviously. And I think it'll be a great bring-in at that price if he starts.
Oh, if he starts, there's no doubt about it.
I don't think we have to bang on too much. If he's there, TLT, bring him in. If he's not, one to consider as a season.
Next one, Mitch, Red.
Yeah,
who wants on? Red?
Keep in mind, there's been about 10 minutes since we last spoke. Jaden Sewer from the Rabbitohs. Now, Bennett loved this man. Brought him across from the Broncos last year. Had a pretty good year. So we're looking at 42 points, averaging 75 minutes. So you assume he had a few games where they just pulled him off. But he was averaging 42 points at 565,000. Pretty good bloke to have. Edge is one of those ones where you either got to probably have a bargain basement or a starter. But I think as a bench spot, he could be huge. He's pretty much guaranteed that second row. And there's not many players that are just guaranteed that price. He played Origin. So again, Bennett. But still, if he's getting 42 points very, very consistently throughout the year, barely had much of a swing between those points. It was pretty much within a 5-6 point differential. That's guaranteed. I think there's not many players on the edge position that are guaranteed that much points.
Well, look, I haven't looked too much into him, to be honest, but I do remember from last year he was a cash cow.
Yeah.
And everyone sort of had him at the start.
Yep.
maybe dipped a bit or had a bad score, then everyone's like, "Oh, trade him out." I know I was one of them, but if you had him all year, actually did okay. Probably would have put in a change position.
He became a keeper.
I think one of the things that opened up for him was they originally started Murray on the edge, and then when he went to lock. So I think the first couple of games was coming off the bench from memory.
That's right. But if Wayne Bennett's your coach, he picks you for Origin on the edge, you're going to play 80 minutes on the edge. So, yeah, could be a great bring in there. Mitch?
I got he was an absolute genuine keeper last year for harawira-naera at the back end of that season. 623, should be starting second rower with an average of 53.6 points when he played over 70 minutes. And look, he looks to be safe in that position, so I think he's just probably don't need to go too much in depth.
Now, there's some great mid-range options there, but, of course, actually, I forgot one of my mid-range options, Jackson Ford. I'll kind of briefly. Never played 80 minutes.
They call him the Mustang.
Last year, but there's some spots available for that Dragons second row. We think he'll take a Frizzell spot. I think he'll be a great pickup at 441k. His average last year was 41.5 when he started. So I think he could be a great bring in.
Well, they like to play their second row as 80 minutes. Tarek Sims barely came off the field. Frizzell, I don't think he came off at all. Like, 5 minutes at the most. Like, they love playing 80 minutes. So if he does get the second row spot, could be really, really good. And if he just gets 40 points,
I think yes,
that's great.
80-minute second rowers at 400,000 in that
They're
range.
They're rare.
You take it. Now guns. Do we have any edge guns? Now there's not as much edge guns as there are middle guns. Let's be honest. And if you can snag a DPP like I have, so I'll double myself here. Angus Crichton. Now, I just handed it back to myself because I love him. I think he will be the best NRL fantasy scorer this year on the edge. Okay. I won't go audacious and say all up, but I think he will be the best edge
player. Put a lazy fiver on it.
Now, I do.
And another one? Oh. All right, you're the ripper.
Now,
we get everyone else who gets one player.
Now,
anyone else?
Now, his lowest score of the year last year was week 1. He got 40 points. But then to finish off the season, his whole season averaged 62.2, which is better than Jason Taumalolo. Now, he's, I think, 6k more expensive. So, it justifies that. But I think this year, there's no question, he's a starting second row. He played Origin. He is fantastic. He breaks tackles. He scores tries. He tackles. He does all the good stuff. Angus Crichton, better than Madison, better than Toby Harris. Calling him now. Don't know.
Interesting. Look, it's a good option if that's where you want to spend your money is on the edge. I think edge will be a bit hit. Well, there you go. You're fine.
Congratulations.
I think edge will be a bit hit and miss. Yeah, go top dollar, bottom dollar. He's not going to say it's a bad option. It's a good option, and if that's where you want to spend your money, go for it.
Look, it's so rare me and Alex agree on anything, but I couldn't agree more. It's bargain basement or it's top dollar, and there is no more top dollar than Mr. Crichton. And he was too good. He was amazing, even next to Flanagan. That good.
So we just brooked Flanagan to make harawira-naera better.
That's how it works.
Now we're tearing him down because Angus Crichton could have done better.
Yeah, but we cut that bit because I fucked it up.
No, I'd never cut for you.
Keep cutting. But honestly, he's amazing. Too amazing to pass up, and I think you have to go bottom dollar. So you need 2 cash cows starting in your edge, or you need 2 amazing blokes.
Now, who you like?
The other amazing bloke that you should bring in, other than Angus, is Tohu Harris. Now, we spoke about Melbourne players who have left the system and gotten worse. Now, this is one man who's just remained. I actually would say he's probably gotten better with a bigger responsibility. He is a DPP again, something you can't pass up with the edge. He's going to play so many minutes. He's guaranteed 80. He's played lock. He's played prop. He pretty much starts at the second row every single week. He's their go-to guy. He's their new Simon Mannering. He was a fantasy gun back in the day because they just never took him off the field. This is the new one. He averaged 60 points and he averaged 42 tackles a game and only 1 missed. That's 40 points a game. That's crazy. They're like, I don't see any other player besides Nathan Hindmarsh that was that consistent in the tackling game, and he still is an attacking player. Fenson, like, wow, what did you have, 67 tackles in your game?
Don't forget Crichton and Tohu Harris, both DPP, which is very rare in that gun range of middle.
Look,
or edge forwards.
807k, pricey, yeah, but not the same as Cleary or Haas. close to the same points.
Consistency again.
Again, you can't pass it up.
Mitch, any last guns you want to finish off?
Well, look,
Finish the vid
I'm
strong.
going to go a gun that's cheaper, but will be so much more explosive.
Whoa.
David Fafita.
Yeah.
Very popular.
Now, look, he averages 5 tackle breaks a game. Now,
Unbelievable for a forward.
He had a few little indiscretions last year, but he still averaged 57.6 when he played 80 minutes. So I think you're still going to get the base stats, you're going to get tackles, you're going to get the run meters, but these guys aren't going to... We've all seen David Fafita do a line break where he'll break 6 tackles. And no disrespect to your two guys, they can't do that.
No.
They're amazing options, don't get me wrong.
I think it's a great line hitter.
But there's only
Not as good as Napa.
one other forward in the game that can do what he does, and that's Jason Tumuela.
Yeah.
I think for $100,000 less, spend that money elsewhere. I don't know, for me, that's the choice.
I think if you can get him and one of these guns on your team, do it. Because, of course, forwards and hookers are always those positions we say you should spend more on. Definitely more consistency and such. Well, that brings... Sorry.
Oh, no, that's cool. I don't want to make a point. Don't worry about it.
No, let's hear it.
We spoke about the Titans' depth. That's a guarantee. There's no question about him. Like, he's in that depth, but he's 80 minutes.
Yeah.
And if they're going to have really good fresh forwards, that means a lot of good spaces for him. They're going to condense the field. He's going to find a half in front of him that he's going to absolutely fucking bulldoze. They're dead. As much as I hate to say it, probably a better call than mine. So thanks, Mitch, making me look like an absolute mug.
Look, defenders like to stand back on him just like Cam Money. So, who we'll talk about next episode. Now, I will release another episode 1 week after this one. So thank you for joining us. I know it was a long episode, and I know you have to stare at our mugs for over 30 minutes. Not easy.
Welcome.
Now, just quick few things before we end.
God,
We're going to stop DMs on Instagram. Full-time job. Too hard to cycle through all your teams and, pros and cons. And although I did enjoy it, it probably made our team suffer a bit by looking at so many teams every week. So we won't. But thank you. Thank you for those. But yeah, we'll be pulling back on the DM on Instagram. Also, Facebook, NRL Fantasy Gurus. Not us. So, phonies.
The new guys.
Great big phonies.
Hey, it's
No
the most
idea who they are.
sincerest form of flattery, am I right?
Thank you for self-promoting us.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
We'll keep plugging ourselves in your page.
And, of course, regular season starts will be moving to a podcast format and, should be moving to a podcast format. A bit easier for us. And, we'll still post videos on YouTube with just the audio, so you don't have to look at us.
Like get Spotify.
Unless you want to, or do a Gurus Up Late kind of show, potentially.
No one wants to see that, Mitch.
Oh,
No one wants to see that.
But that's him without a shirt.
Oh, well, no one wants to see that.
So thank you for watching.
I'll
Of course, I'll do Red's classic subscribe. But what else can they do, Mitch?
like.
God, you're rusty.
Oh, I don't want to say comment.
I can still comment on the YouTube video.
Yeah,
Okay,
will
fair enough.
openly
Like, comment,
respond to
subscribe, guys,
YouTube.
as always. If it's on Instagram, we probably won't reply, but...
Hey, and what if we switch to Spotify? You can follow.
There you go. Thank you for watching,
We'll
guys.
work on that. We'll
See
get
you next
that.
week.
I need your beer. Subscribe.